Listen to Iron Maiden, maybe with me.
It's recording this.
Welcome to Listen to
Iron
Maiden, baby.
Hey.
I'm Ash and I'm from South Wales.
I'm Ante. I'm from New South Wales.
This is only the second episode, but I'm still gunning to make that a catchphrase thing.
I was thinking about the same thing.
Yeah, I
like
hope
it.
so.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Iron Maiden. I like Iron Maiden.
I'm learning Iron Maiden, though I do like it, so don't worry.
I hope so. Yeah. So anyway, today we're looking at the early years DVD. Well, I say DVD.
Well,
where did you watch it?
I watched it on YouTube for free.
For free.
Where
yeah.
did you first watch it?
Well, I'm one of those mugs who bought the early years DVDs for quite a bit of money, I remember. And now it's just free on YouTube.
Yep.
Whatever, that's what content is. But I was a bit miffed when I first saw it. I was like, oh, God.
Oh, if you can get it signed.
But there's so many members.
You're
only good when you have something signed, if it's by everyone of the band, you know what I mean?
Right.
You can't have just 3 members and, you know, even if it's like not an important member, it's still, you know, you got to have the collection.
Yeah.
So, before we actually dive into all the albums of Iron Maiden and talk about those, I thought we would look at the early years, what do you call it? I guess it's a documentary.
Yeah.
But it's a self-made one.
Yeah.
Which is like I said, I do like deep diving into stuff, but I love when you like look at things that bands put out themselves.
Yeah.
Because it's funny when you think, oh, they thought that made them look good, or oh, they thought that made them look whatever, you know. Yeah. But it can be
cringy sometimes.
Yeah, cringy. And there's another documentary. It's not a documentary. It's a movie they made called Flight 666. It's the one where
I think I've seen snippets.
Yeah, Bruce is flying the plane around, whatever. And there's this one moment in it which made me laugh, where Steve Harris, someone makes like a gay joke or something, and Steve Harris is like he shows like, I was like, oh my God, the way he reacted there is as though he's really like homophobic or something, like, because like he kind of like had gritted teeth. He's like, you better had, mate, whatever. And I was like, oh, should have cut that one, but they didn't. Anyway, I think there's 3 parts to the DVDs.
It was 3 parts.
Yeah, and one of them is much shorter than the other ones, whatever. Yeah. But I'm sure if you are listening to this, you're an Iron Maiden fan, you must have seen the documentary. And Ante, who is as he said, learning to like Iron Maiden. Overall, did you enjoy watching the documentary or the first part?
Yeah, definitely.
Have you watched all of them? Have you watched all of them?
I've watched all the parts, because he recommended it.
Yeah,
it's
that's
like, watch the first part, and then I was like, kept going. So, which is a good sign.
I think so, yeah. I think that's it. So what's your like feeling about the band then? Like, after watching that?
Well, I think we were talking a little bit in episode 1 about like people's image of Iron Maiden, who the members are.
Yeah.
You know, but for me, it was like, actually going back and just listening to the early stuff, and then the amount of people that they went through, especially the really early years.
Yeah, and in the early years, I mean, very much.
I'm aware a lot of bands go through a lot of changes, but I was like, wow.
Do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing? Because you could say that Steve Harris is a perfectionist, but I would just say he knew what he wanted. And
I'm with you on that. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I was just really amazed, like, it was more the lead guitarist, right?
That they had a lot of mostly the lead guitarist, yeah.
But also it was kind of really the early years that they had a lot of those changes.
Yeah, this was before like any album was even recorded or anything, you know.
So probably a good thing it happened when it did.
And the thing is, like with most bands, like I have experience in bands, and when you first start a band, whatever, a lot of the time it's just your mates. And they can barely play the instruments, whatever. And you might have one guy who's like really, really good, and the others are just like, well, there's no one else because I'm from a small village, and you know, you'll do. Actually, I was one of those guys once. I only really started playing music because my friends who were doing a music course, I was doing the recording course. And I was trying to record them. They didn't have a bass player. They were like, "Oh, do you want to play?" And I was like, "Yeah, all right, why not? I'll try it." But I just become obsessed with it.
That was pretty much me, like a group of friends at high school. My band, same thing. Let's make a band. Okay. What do you want to play?
Yeah.
It was kind of like that.
I see.
And I was originally the bass player.
Okay.
Nothing against bass players. I like bass. Yeah. But then when a few years later in high school, we all changed schools and there's new people, new friends. Yeah. Someone else wanted to join. And I was like, you're playing bass now.
Yeah. So, got it.
But it's a thing, you're just
down.
friends and
Yeah. So Iron Maiden are from London. But the problem with London is that there's a north, a south, a west, and the east.
Oh, okay.
And the east side is the rough part, which is where they're from. And they have that Cockney, the famous Cockney accent, whatever.
Yeah.
As you go, because I used to live in London, and the west side is really nice area, quite nice. And the north is a mix of nice and kind of rough. But that's where Tottenham and those places are. And people have the North London accent. Do you know Adele?
Yeah, definitely.
She's from North, so that really oh my God, it's quite Essexy kind of thing, whatever. And East London is where the Cockneys are from, the proper, London boys.
Oasis boys, where are they from? Is that
Manchester, yeah.
Where's that? My geography isn't that good with the UK.
Well, that's right, you're from Australia, right?
You're right, yeah.
So it's different. Yeah, that's much more north. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, England is split into north and south.
Yeah.
So the border is basically like just above London. Is the south. Sorry, just below London and below is the south area.
Yeah.
And anything above that is considered the north.
Yeah.
But I'm from Wales, which is considered the north, even though it's in the west, but that's how it's split.
Yeah.
Australia is split in west and east, right?
We do have main east, but the east side has a few parts to
that's
it.
Right, that's right, yeah. But, normally these places, like Japan, where we live, is split into west and east, right?
Yeah,
Even though, geography, you could say there's a north part. Whatever.
That's always been in my head, and then recently getting used to east west kind of thing.
Yeah. These guys are from like really deep in London. I think Steve Harris is from Leytonstone or somewhere, which is like just outside of it.
Yeah,
but still, it's quite a strong accent. So it's quite. It's funny because most metal bands, well, the two biggest ones are from Birmingham, which is Black Sabbath and Judas Priest, both from Birmingham.
They're pretty big.
Yeah.
Def Leppard, where are they from?
Oh, I don't know.
No? I might have to check that one.
No, I think they're from like up north somewhere, whatever. Because I hear them speaking. Actually,
they're doing a tour now with Motley Crue.
They're from Sheffield. Another northern place. Sheffield is the same place as the Arctic Monkeys are from.
Okay.
So that actually Sheffield is in Yorkshire, Yorkshire's got that really rough accent. Like in the north of England, everything that is my becomes me. So it's me mum, me dad, like that, whatever. Right. And Yorkshire is very. Actually, the manager of Iron Maiden, Rod Smallwood, is from Yorkshire. And they always wind him up because he says, I'm from Yorkshire, I'm a tough guy.
I think, did they mention something that in the documentary? I know they mentioned something about
I think he's from Huddersfield or somewhere like that, like really deep in Yorkshire. And it's funny thing about, and this is not about Iron Maiden, but like England as a culture, because from like I say the early like 50s, 60s was like America, right? Like Chuck Berry and all that stuff. But after the Beatles, a lot of music, bands are from the UK, and something really connected with that. And even like Jimi Hendrix went to London.
Yeah,
everyone went to London. AC/DC moved to London. Right. So it was, there's a lot of music and history going from there. Even like in Japan where we live, people are crazy for.
You're
England,
right. You do have, and again, the thing, some of them are American crazy, some are really England crazy.
Now you get a few Aussies, a lot of Japanese people here are very.
Then there's a few little niches that I found, like you got the ones that are Jamaican crazy.
Okay. Because in everywhere in Japan, well, everywhere in the world has its like red light district area, and in Japan, the one there's like it's barely that. It's a lot of like reggae and hardcore clubs and stuff like that.
It's a big mix.
Yeah, it is quite.
And when
funny,
we're talking bars, it's not like a big bar like in Sydney or I'd imagine in the UK. No, we're talking like little rooms.
It's a corridor, isn't it?
Yeah, really? Basically.
Yeah. Anyway, so Steve Harris is the guy, the main guy from Iron Maiden. He's the bass player, which is really rare usually. Because my whole thing was I was a bass player. But I changed to guitar because I wanted to write my own songs. Yeah. But he was writing.
I noticed that.
Yeah, he wrote all the songs. And I'm confused because what they say is that he plays the bass, right? And he like whistles the melody over the top of it. Like, so he'd be like doing, for example, like, I'm not sure if he whistles the guitar melody or the vocal melody.
Because he was writing vocals as well. Was it earlier?
Yeah, he writes he writes most of the lyrics. He writes, but like, the guitar, he must, it's not like he's writing down the tab of the guitar or whatever. I mean, I guess he's showing them what to play and then they kind of work it out or whatever.
I know, it is odd. Just going back to my band before when we were writing music, our vocalist, he'd do all the vocals and write the melodies for the vocals, but he'd always be humming because he doesn't know what the vocals are yet. So I'm thinking maybe.
Yeah. But it's just interesting because it's very rare that the bass player is writing the songs, and then but it's just unusual,
Because he was originally the document said he wanted to be a drummer.
Yeah, exactly. He says in there that he wanted to be a drummer, but I don't know. He says he didn't have anywhere to put the drums. I mean, I think about it all the time because where I grew up, there's no way you could put like my friend. His dad was a drummer, but he had like a soundproofed garage kind of thing, which was like really, you could barely hear it, which is okay. Most people just can't really get away with doing drums.
God, could you imagine that in Japan?
Oh, you never have it here. You got to have it in, those like.
I can only think of like the small electronic type, we can wear there.
Yeah.
But then you'd probably just be hearing all this tapping.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's even worse. Yeah. Might be like hearing that. It just sounds like electronic drums. They're really cool, but like, it is a weird sound, isn't it? It's like a.
Neighbors will just be hearing this little.
Yeah. I think that's more annoying actually.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah. Anyway, so his first band was called Gypsy's Kiss, and I think that it's a Deep Purple song. The name of it. Yeah. You know what it's like? I know a lot of bands who like they call their first band after a song of their favorite band, whatever. Yeah, they call and actually Gypsy's Kiss, which is interesting. They actually reunited a couple of years ago.
Okay.
And
really?
In the documentary, he says there's a song called "Heat Crazed Vole."
Yeah.
Do you want to hear it?
Yeah, actually.
Here's the chorus. So he did everything he could there to rhyme "heat crazed vole" with whatever he could. It's not bad. It's not bad.
No, definitely not. Yeah. Was that one of like their originals?
That was the song that Steve Harris says was a great title.
Yeah,
and I guess they re-recorded this. I didn't really look into it that much, but I found this song. It's quite recent. So
that recording,
yeah. That's quite a recent recording, but I guess that's what it sounded like back in the day with Steve in the band. But anyway, it's not bad, is it? But it's not Iron Maiden.
No, it definitely is an Iron Maiden, right?
Yeah. So he was in the band for a year, and like I said, another thing about the British thing as well. I don't know about in Australia, but in the UK, because it's an old country and stuff like that. When I talk to another British person, all British people, we can hear the city you're from, and your class in your voice. Like you can hear, I can hear, oh, he's from middle class, working class, or upper class, and the area.
Yeah,
and I know in America that's not really. It's not the case to do that unless it's like southern like hick whatever.
But, right. Yeah, like more extremes. Yeah. Australia, a little bit. Then also because it's such a multicultural country, you can also kind of pick. Okay, you're either first or even second generation, depending on who you're growing up with.
Generation-wise, that makes sense.
I know people that remember before I was saying I'm from a Croatian background, in the Croatian community, you'll have some people who they're born in Australia, but they don't sound Australian. Because they've probably been hanging around with other people who just talk that way. And it's just it's an Australian accent, but not Australian.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. Didn't think about that. Yeah. Australia is a generational thing. And I guess America is the same, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because, England is the father of all you guys. Yeah. It's really weird because I'd meet someone. And that's just funny thing about like rich people. Like Elton John, he's from Watford. And no matter what he does, he sounds like he's from Watford. No matter how rich he gets, he can never sound like a rich, high-class guy.
Can't afford the accent?
No, it's very interesting how it works. Like, but Iron Maiden is the same. Like Steve Harris is minted, but when he talks, he just sounds like a geezer from East London.
Right.
He can't hide it.
I'd at least go out and buy a monocle.
Yeah, but he's just a bloke, isn't he? They're all blokes. That's what you get. That's what really comes across from the documentary. They're just blokes, just playing music. It's hilarious.
Yeah, and I don't mean it in a bad way, but like they haven't really grown up. When I mean like mature, like they're just that's what they did.
Yep.
This is who we are.
Yeah, pretty much doing the same thing,
I don't mean that in a bad way at all.
No, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. So then, anyway, Steve Harris joins another band called Smiler, and I think he said the band, the last one, they just wouldn't play his stuff. Like he wanted to write his own songs.
That's right. Yeah. And so what is it? They only did like a small number of gigs and then it was like because of that.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. But he did meet the drummer who then later became the drummer in Iron Maiden. Like I said, most band things is just who you know. You meet people and going out and stuff.
Yeah.
And you gotta you want to be in a band, you got to socialize in the crowd and meet the right people.
Yeah.
It's like it was with Kiss. Are you a Kiss fan?
So. I'm partial on Kiss.
I'm actually not a big fan of Kiss's music, but I love the story. Because they have Gene and Paul, who are teetotal, totally like everything's like they think about it before they did everything. Oh, we're gonna wait. It's all calculated.
Yes.
But then they had these two nutters in the band with Ace and Peter Criss, who were Ace is pretty good. He's a really good guitar player, but he wasn't like like a virtuoso or anything like that. But his personality, when you see him in interviews, he comes across as a really fun guy. And Peter Criss as well, the same thing. But when you read their books, all they say is like, "Oh, those guys were a nightmare in the band."
Yeah,
they were doing whatever they could to get him out of it. But at the same time, for a lot of people, it's not Kiss without those 4 original members.
Yeah,
and the 2 guys they have now, who are like wearing the makeup and stuff, they're like, they won't have it, and that's why it does. That's why music is interesting. You need to have characters in the band. And that's why they say in the documentary that's where Eddie came from.
Yeah.
Because the band, they have no personality, really.
Which is a great idea.
That's the manager, right? That's the manager doing his job, And okay, we got these guys who are really good musicians, but they got no personality.
Yeah, we need something more.
So, yeah.
Thank you, just Eddie. Think about how iconic Eddie is, man.
It's one of the most iconic images in the world, isn't it? I mean,
definitely.
But without Eddie, I'm trying to think of I Maiden without Eddie. It would be like just those guys like on the cover of the album posing.
No,
I don't think it would work.
Like we were saying before, those covers are they're just as important with Iron Maiden.
Right?
They're iconic. The artwork is, it just goes with the music.
100%. Yeah, and especially back in the day when you would buy stuff based on the cover. You couldn't exactly listen to it, could you?
Right? It's like, this looks cool.
Yeah. Well, a lot of Iron Maiden album covers do look cool, and so it did its job. Anyway, so Steve then says that while he's walking out from a pub, he gets an idea for a song, Transylvania, which sounds like this. Sorry, I gotta sing along to it.
No,
bow, bow, bow. Down, down, down. I know you want to listen to this, guys, but I gotta sing along to it. Ready? Down, na, 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 na. Okay, wait a minute. He had that idea walking up from the pub. Really? Which part?
And what happened with that transition?
Yeah. It is true though, because like I said, I've been doing bands for a long time, and as a songwriter, I find that most of the best songs that people like are the ones that I wrote in like 4 minutes and didn't think about it.
Yeah.
It's weird how that happened. I'm sure like he's, is he walking on going like, like, dun, 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 dun. And like, how does that work?
And then like, oh crap, I really got to remember this riff.
Yeah, because he must have like had to run home and like, because so many times I forget something after like, I go back to, like I record all these ideas, and when I go back to play them, I'm like, I can't remember how to play them. And so was he like run home going, dun, 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 dun. I can imagine him just running on the street.
He was on constant repeat.
Yeah. I know they had those like little tape recorders, whatever, but if he's in the pub, I doubt he has one of those, right?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
And how many times have you done that? Like, I know when I was writing things too, they're like, or right when you're about to go to sleep, an idea pops in your head. I'll remember that tomorrow.
Yeah.
You don't.
Yeah, I was always one who woke up and put it down in some way.
Too lazy.
But I always did that. But yeah, it's kind of cool though, because if you are a songwriter, like where you get inspiration from is crazy. Like I never just like hum things. I would just pick up a guitar until I found something that sounded good, and I would build a song around that.
Yeah.
But like some people, like apparently Steve Harris, the idea would pop in his head while he's walking around the pub, which is amazing.
But it's bad too. I don't know, like you've probably experienced it yourself, writing stuff and pushing it. If you push it, it usually comes out crap.
I agree. If you have to work, because it is a case by case, because sometimes it does go pretty far, like maybe like not the main idea, but like maybe the bridge or something you really have to work on. But if it just flows out of you, it's usually the best one.
Push it's not good. Life lesson, people, just like a fart.
Yeah,
you push it, it's probably crap. Anyway, moving on.
Exactly. I like that. That's a good advice. That's a good one. Yeah. See, this podcast is offering so much. Okay. I knew we were right to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so basically Smilo were rubbish and just couldn't play his songs.
Yeah.
And he quit.
Yeah.
But, and the guy says this.
He went off to form Iron Maiden, and I went and got a job.
Actually, that was the drummer, right?
Yeah, I love that line. This is brilliant. Like, I when I got a job, Yeah, it is funny.
It's probably like, oh.
Yeah. You think about it, like, there's a lot of people who, you miss a chance or you miss an opportunity because but at the same time, like, a band, you have no idea it's going to be successful. How can you know that? I don't blame anyone who is like regretting, I wish I didn't leave the band or whatever. It's like, you didn't know. Don't worry about it.
That's going either way. Like, okay, back then, like, we've got a lot of technology now, but okay, back then, is your band going to be successful? No, it's like buying a lottery ticket. But even nowadays, social media, it's easy to market yourself, but then who's going to see you?
Exactly.
I think it's still just as difficult.
I think so, yeah. It's just like, there's just different ways to go about it, isn't it?
Right.
You're right. But it's funny because talking about this, when I was in school, where I'm from, there's a band called Funeral for a Friend.
Yeah.
They're quite popular. Well, they were in the early 2000s.
I like that name.
Yeah.
What were they? Like,
it's like an emo rock band. Actually, but it kind of...
That sounds perfect for an emo rock.
Yeah, but they're all Iron Maiden fans, so all the riffs are kind of like Iron Maiden-y, but with like kind of emo vocals over it. Really good, actually. But anyway... My music teacher used to be the bass player in the band before they became big.
Yeah.
And we used to wind him up all the time. He's like, oh, look at you teaching me how to play guitar and you could have been on tour right now. And he was kind of like, he was not bitter about it, but he would just laugh about it. And at the same time, like, of course, he had a choice.
Right. Yeah.
Do I pursue my teaching job, or do I join this band that could possibly make it? You have no idea. You
guys riling up, and he's just going home, and then he's crying.
Yeah, I'm sure he was. Yeah. So the first kind of official lineup of Iron Maiden was Steve Harris on bass and vocal, Dave Sullivan on guitar, Ron Matthews on drums, Ron Rebel, got a cool nickname.
Yeah.
Paul Day on vocal, and Terry Dance on guitar. These are super British names.
Yeah.
Terry, Paul, Ron, Dave, and Steve. I love it. Like, those names are gone now. Okay, can I just talk about something as well?
Yeah.
All right. Steve is credited as doing vocals as well. Now,
that's right. Yeah, I didn't notice
there was one time where he played a gig and the singer didn't turn up, whatever, but he really can't sing. Yeah. And even on the tour right now, they're on tour right now.
Yeah.
I was listening to a video and you could hear his backing vocals. I mean, listen to this. I'm sorry, but this is insane.
Well, that was fucking dreadful.
Oh my god.
You know what? Well, I knew it.
I mean, he sounds like Sloth from the Goonies trying to shout it. Right. He's not very good.
I'll give him a little bit of a credit, though.
What?
I have heard worse.
Right.
But that's pretty...
He sings out of key all the time, too. So I've seen him a few times, and I was like, do you know the song Can I Play With Madness?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a classic one. Brilliant song. But on the recording, it's fantastic. But when they do it live, when he sings the back in it, he ruins it. He kind of ruins it. And I hate it live because he ruins it. Another thing as well I want to talk about, which is interesting, I heard in the documentary, is that you hear them talk about going to Steve's nan's house, his grandmother's house, a lot.
Yeah.
And because like they say, I thought we went on his nan's house or something like that. Sidetrack. What do you call grandmother in Australia?
Grandmother would be your gran. Amazing. Again, Croatian background, a little bit different for me too. So.
Oh, really? Yeah. What do you call it?
We call Baba.
A Baba, okay.
Which is also what they use here in Japan
that's
too.
Right. Yeah,
Baba,
right,
Bachan, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, in the UK, we say nan. A lot of people, a lot of like working class people say nan.
However, in Australia, I've heard that terminology too. So, yeah.
Nan is very common. But they also about Steve's nan. And like, I know in the later discography, they have a song called Blood Brothers, which is one of the new albums. And it's about his dad, and I think his dad passed away, whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't like. I'm not in for diving into people's lives, whatever. But it makes me think that Steve possibly grew up with his grandmother.
Yeah.
And the reason why I think about that is because my cousin had the same situation. Because my mother has 2 sisters and a brother.
Yeah.
And my brother and I, we grew up with my parents, no problem. But my cousin, his name's Kieran. His mother was the youngest, but he's the oldest. Yeah. She had a baby really, really young, basically.
Yeah.
And she had a lot of problems with substances and things like that. So he basically grew up with my grandmother in the house, right? And not only did he grow up like that, but he was ginger.
Yeah.
and I mean like proper ginger pale.
Yeah.
And he was a little bit overweight. Now,
the combination.
He had all this crap growing up, and now he's a father doing really well.
Yeah.
He does drink a lot, but whatever. You got to balance it somehow. But I now I'm older. I went back to the UK last week and I met him again, and I realized how much I was like, I respect you, because he had every excuse to go down that avenue and ruin his life, whatever, but he didn't do it, and I really respect him for that. But like with Steve Harris as well, like his drive for the band, I really feel like it's something to do with that. Like, I'm not sure if he didn't see his mum or his dad, whatever, but that drive to get out of.
If that is position. The case, though, he really did put it in the right direction.
Yeah.
Like, and hats off to him. That's great.
Yeah, and that's why, like, in the documentary, you see them saying stuff like, oh, he's firing people, whatever. And he says, I think he says, like, you can't let them get in the way. You can't let these things get in the way. And, I just that comment about his grandmother, going to his grandmother's house all the time, it makes me think that, he did have kind of a dysfunctional family dynamic, and that's why he became, it's weird because like you have a kid now, right? And right? Yeah. And it's like you hear a lot of people saying, I want to give him a hard life so they grow up to be a good person. But at the same time, you can't just be like, right, I've got enough money for steak every day, but you're going to eat shit.
Right. Yeah.
You can't do that. Like, How do you think of that approach though? Like as like diverse, like was it not diversity? Like having a challenging upbringing. Do you think it's important?
It definitely makes character.
Yeah.
It's a double-edged sword on how it's dished out.
True.
Because some people have it hard with no choice. Some people just cop it like, But that's what I'm now saying. Like, I've got a kid now.
Yeah.
Well, I've only got the one, so I don't really have a handbook on it. We'll see how it goes.
It is weird because most comedians had like messed up lives and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
And like most interesting people you meet have come from hard kind of situations. And like I love living in Japan.
Yeah.
But I do socialize with a lot of Japanese people. And one thing I do know is that they do lack a lot of character and personality. And I think it is because it's such a haven and lovely place to grow up here. There's not a lot of like challenges in that way. And it makes, I don't want to say boring people. No.
I totally get what you're saying.
Do you know what I mean?
It's also why I guess I'm very selective who I surround myself with.
Yeah. I try to, like when I first came here, I tried to socialize. I was like, because I wanted to like focus on Japanese and stuff like that. I was like, I'm just only going to hang out with Japanese people, so I'm always around it.
Yeah.
But the guys I hang around with, I was like, oh my God, this is the most boring person ever.
Right. Yeah.
And the girls were worse. Like dating when I first came here, I was like, oh my God, why does every girl's hobby is eating and nothing else?
Yeah.
Like anything else, whatever,
Like to sleep. Eating and sleeping.
Yeah, it's like, okay, anything else? It is a struggle because, where I'm from in the UK, and I grew up in a small village in South Wales where you had to, you get thick, you really do get thick skin if you get nothing else from it. But at the same time, I don't think that's a good thing. But do we sacrifice like, we have character and personality, but at the same time, we have to endure a lot of crap.
Right.
I mean, but it does make interesting stuff for people.
Builds character.
Yeah. Steve Harris is definitely one of those guys for sure.
It also builds dicks too, but not everyone's a dick. I don't see Steve Harris as one though.
Yeah, but exactly. But you can go either way, can't you? Right. Like I said with my cousin, he could have used any one of those excuses. He's ginger, he's overweight, his parents dynamic, whatever. He could have gone, well, I'm going to just mess up my life and use any one of these things as an excuse. But he didn't, and I think those people need respect, deserve respect. Steve Harris picked up a bass and got himself out of the situation he was in.
I think it was a few people mentioned that he knew what he wanted.
Yeah, exactly. He knew what he wanted.
And that's a few people saying that. So it's kind of like, well, they're not lying about it.
Yeah. And what you notice as well, that is like clearly he had nothing else to drop back on. Whereas like a lot of the other people, they said like, oh, I got a job. I can't really commit to it and things like that. But for him, he didn't, in a way, it's kind of a luxury to not think, well, I got nothing else to go for, so why not go for this? Where a lot of other people, had girlfriends and jobs, things like that. Yeah. It is difficult to give it up when you're in a good position. Because I know a lot of people who, like, one of the best jobs to have if you're a musician is working at a shift job, like a convenience store or something.
Yeah.
A lot of my friends back home, they were like in hardcore bands and they would go on tours all the time, but they would all work in like a convenience store because you could just take off anytime. There's always someone to cover you.
Okay, yeah.
This other guy, there was a band they were quite popular in the UK. They're called Hondo McLean. They were in the early 2000s. They were the singer Ben. He worked at the local record store.
Yeah.
And we would go there and see him, and like in the week.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh yeah, I was on tour with this band this weekend." We're like, "What the heck? Why are you here?" Because in your mind, when you think a guy that's on tour, you think, "Oh,
you've
they
made it, right?" Yeah.
But that's the thing with rock music and metal music is that to make it, you got to really make it.
Yeah.
So to make a lot of money, and especially recently with like CDs,
you got a stadium make it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I've never really heard anyone talk about his like family. So, I know I don't want to dive into his family. Whatever. Last week I was at the airport coming back to Japan, and
you saw him.
No. I saw. I'm a huge Liverpool fan, football.
Yep.
I saw an ex-player, Glenn Johnson, was sitting on the next table to me, eating breakfast and having a pint at 7 o'clock in the morning.
As you do.
He's retired. Fair enough. Enjoy.
Okay.
And I saw him and I was like, oh, I really want to talk to him. But I thought, he's having breakfast. He'd probably go in somewhere. I was like, I'm just going to leave him. I didn't even acknowledge him. I just looked at him and thought, that's him. I checked his tattoos. That is him. And that was enough. But I know a lot of people would be like, "Oh, Glenn, can I have a photo?" I never been like that. I don't want to be like that. If he was sitting reading a paper, I would probably have said something to him. But
some people can't read the room.
No, no, not at all. I just thought, leave him alone.
Yeah. What is an Iron Maiden? Hey?
Yeah,
that's pretty full on, right?
Well, there we go. So people say about that it's from the book, The Man in the Iron Mask, whatever. It's a torture device thing, whatever. Yeah. But clearly, anyone that likes Iron Maiden knows Steve Harris doesn't read books; he watches films.
Because
almost every album has got a song about a film, and even some have like more than one. I don't buy for a second that he read the book, The Man in the Iron Mask. I'm telling you, he watched the film, and it was said in that because Steve is a film guy. Because you'll have a TV show, or whatever.
Yeah.
Because when we dive into the albums, you'll be laughing at how many like film references there are and stuff like that. Even to the case where you're like, I need to write a song. I'll just literally write it about the thing, whatever. Or like some historical figure where they just like Wikipedia and
right. Let's just
whatever.
Sing this.
Yeah, pretty much that. That is what it's like, But yeah, it is a cool name though, isn't it? Iron Maiden. Because do you think band name is super important?
Yes and no. Because I was having this conversation I remember the bandmates a while ago.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily matter if you make it big, because think about like a Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah, that's true.
How huge are they?
Yeah, it is a rubbish
You don't
name,
really now sit there and think, oh, that's a crap name. No.
Well, that was fucking dreadful.
Yeah.
Right?
Because if I said, okay, here's my band name list, right? Red Hot Chili Peppers. Black Eyed Peas.
Yeah.
Even like the really like one word names are interesting. Like you have like right now there's a band called one of my favorite bands, Architects.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a job. It's a person that does a job. I mean, like, how do you go? That's it.
One of my favorite bands, Tool.
Okay, Tool. There we go.
It's
Tool. Yeah. I mean, how do you decide that it's good? Is it like, is it a feeling, or is it just like, oh fuck it, I can't think of anything else?
Yeah, this is what I've come up with. The guys are okay with it. We'll just run with that.
Yeah,
maybe.
Because a lot of the times, names are quite like placeholders. Like a lot of songs and things that they have like a working title.
Yeah,
and then sometimes it doesn't get changed or whatever. But it's kind of dangerous too, because if you do make it and your band's got a funny name, but then you can't change it, because if you change it, you're back to square one, aren't you?
Yeah.
I think Iron Maiden is a really good name.
I think that was one thing also you mentioned in the documentary too. Is like their metal would probably sound quite commercial now, whereas back then they were considered very heavy.
That's true.
Right?
That's true. Yeah. You imagine when you in the 1979 or in those late 70s.
Listen, I was like, what?
Yeah, if you heard them, you would think it was pretty heavy.
Yeah.
Because I think I forgot to get a clip, but I did listen to like some other music around the same time, and it wasn't very heavy at all in comparison.
They're not playing 8-string guitars then, were they?
No, that's the thing though. Everyone just down tunes and adds a lot of strings, and it does sound. My problem is that I grew up. Well, you did too. With the new metal era, and I love a down tune guitar. I love it. Too.
Yeah,
I love the sound of like that corn, like all my guitars are mostly in like drop B tuning. I just love the sound of that thing. Of course, I love Iron Maiden playing standard tuning. So any guitar players out there, standard is in E, A, D, G, B, E. But that's what every regular guitar is tuned to. And as lower you go, so if you go down to, D and then C, it sounds heavier and, well, kind of. But Iron Maiden's thing is that we talked about Blaze Bayley, one of the singers.
Yeah.
He had a much lower register than Bruce. And if they just tuned down half a step, it would have been much better. Mm-hmm, but, they just wouldn't do it because, it's Steve Harris and his, Get it! Fucking get it! Sorry, Blaze. But yeah, you know what I mean? It's like they wouldn't tune down at all.
It's interesting that they wouldn't do that because it's the vocalist. Like,
yeah, well, like I said, they hired him just to record the album and forgetting that, wait a minute, he's got to do like all the back catalog as well. So I think Steve needs a slap on the wrist for that.
Yeah,
I think it's his fault. Yeah.
What was the interview process there?
Blaze gets hate. He gets a lot of hate. He did 2 albums and people hate him, and it's like it wasn't that bad, but whatever. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Anyway, in the documentary, did you see the roadie? This guy called Jeff Daniels. He's wearing like a blue hockey shirt.
Yeah.
The most bitter guy ever. I got a clip of this guy. Listen to this.
Steve's often said to me, "Why did you leave?" And I said, "Well, Dave and Terry went, and I thought that was the end." But he says to this day, "Well, you could have stayed. You could have still been with us." But I get to see a lot of gigs around Europe and States and that, and it's great. Love every minute of it.
Oh, do you? You love every minute of it.
Doesn't sound too happy.
I love that part because they kept it in as well. This is what I'm saying, right? Like Iron Maiden made this documentary, right?
Yeah.
So there's no need to leave that part in because it just makes him look like a bit of a prick. He's like,
you can just read between the lines,
right? I know. He's like, oh, he said he could have stayed, whatever. But I was like, oh, I still see gigs. That's one of those cringe moments in it, But they kept it in, and that's what makes me laugh about it. And anyway, he seems like a cool guy, but he was one of the original roadies for them, and early days onto Iron Maiden.
Another thing with now doing this podcast, like I said, learning Iron Maiden isn't their music, because I haven't played in such a long time.
Yeah.
You know what? They actually make me want to pick up a guitar again and jam along.
Oh, yeah. I think, the
riffs are great. They're just...
that's how I learn guitar. I reckon trying to play Iron Maiden songs means you have to learn a lot of guitar techniques that will help you as a guitar player. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you think of like the hammering or hammers on and things like that. And if you get into solos like Dave Murray's legato, just like that fluid, like Dave Murray is insane. When you watch him play guitar, he looks like one of those Instagram guitarists that is pretending to play.
Yeah.
And it's like
he's the real
he's
deal.
Really doing it.
Yeah.
He's amazing, and learning Iron Maiden songs, you have to learn a lot of techniques, and it's just a really good way to learn the guitar. So but you're right, it makes me want to play all the time. So everyone knows that Paul Di'Anno is the first official vocalist of Iron Maiden. Yeah. But one thing they do is that a lot of time people will say like, "Oh, he's the original," but actually he's not. We just said in this documentary there's another guy called Paul Day, and even then they were still playing those early songs like Iron Maiden, Wrathchild, and things like that. So it's not like because Paul Di'Anno was on stage saying, "Oh, I made them famous" and all this shit, whatever.
Yeah.
But actually, when he joined the band, I'd say like 80% of the album was already written.
That's right. The foundations were already there, and good timing for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But because they released that in 1980, where no one knew about, unless you were there in London, you didn't know about the past 5 years, or whatever. No one knew that actually, there was another guy singing those songs, and I think even there's one of them. I think it's Sanctuary. They actually bought. Another guy wrote the song. They just bought the rights off him and went on from there.
Is there any recordings of the?
There is. Yeah, there is one. The only one I could find is the singer after him, Dennis Wilcock. So this is the guy that they said didn't have a good voice, but was good on stage.
Yeah.
Much slower, right?
Yeah. Yes.
I don't want to listen to that anymore. He doesn't sound. He's doing that like putting that inflection on his voice, like "Syrian girl," like trying to Americanize his voice, kind of thing, whatever, to make up for like not having a good voice.
Right.
That's really slow too, right?
Yeah. That's what I noticed straight away.
I found that recently, and I was like, oh my god, I can't listen to it. Once you heard the original one, and it's very hard to go back.
Yes.
But, it's funny. Did you see the part in the documentary where they said they lost the battle of the bands? To some kid
who's playing an acoustic.
And like if you read he's got his diary on there, right? And it says, "Oh, it's a farce."
Yeah,
oh, like we lost it. Like seriously, mate, chill out. Like it's only a battle of a band, like. But he was actually peed off that he lost a little kid, whatever. So Paul Day was the vocalist, and they said, you know, he's a really nice guy, good and good voice, but no stage presence.
Yeah.
Now, have you ever seen I Maiden live?
No.
Okay, so one of the main things about the live show is the stage presence, man. Like Steve Harris is right up the front with his bass. Dave Murray kind of stands back, but it's still like, you know, he throws a few shapes, as they say. And then Adrian Smith, it just looks awesome. He walks about a bit, whatever. But then they have Yannick Gers, who is the third guitar player.
Yeah.
He's the one that just throws his guitar around. Even if you don't like him, he does make it look much better on stage, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Bruce, of course, is always running about whatever. But yeah, the band has stage presence. And as a vocalist, you need to have stage presence more than anything.
I would be the worst front man. I have no stage presence.
You mentioned Oasis earlier. I mean, Liam just used to stand there, but he was in the media. He was massive, right?
Yeah.
So it's okay. You don't always have to be on stage, but then when you get off a stage, you better be like, you know, saying some
bit of a
mad
character.
stuff.
Yeah,
it's very important. So they sacked him. Dennis Wilcock joins as a new singer. Apparently, he's not a good singer, but good stage presence, and he's the one who starts doing all the blood things on stage. You know. Adding in the show kind of stuff or whatever.
Is that the one where apparently some lady in the crowd passed out?
Yeah, exactly.
And like a blood capsule.
Yeah, exactly, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So say, you know, whatever, it wasn't a good vocalist, whatever, but without him, maybe the other band members wouldn't have decided to do all the, you know, like the kabuki mask and all that things, whatever. So I think he does deserve a bit of, like, you know, respect, whatever.
Yeah, definitely.
I am Maiden not shy of a few court cases as well, because one of the biggest songs ever, Hallowed Be Thy Name, right?
Yes.
Now, I'd say it's the best song they've ever made.
Yep.
It's the one they always played, but they stopped playing it a couple of years ago because they were in a court battle, because they literally borrowed some of the lyrics of the song.
Yeah.
But Steve said that they used them as placeholder lyrics while they were, you know,
working on
the song. And then they just kind of kept them. But come on, someone should have sorted that. Like with the Sanctuary song, or Prowler, whichever one it was, they paid off the guy, they bought the rights for it. They should have done that with, because they must have been shitting themselves for years in this, because they knew that he knows he's lifted the lyrics, but they kept, you know, they just kind of didn't acknowledge it until recently someone.
Hang on, what album is this as well?
Third album.
Yeah, so they're already like...
Yeah, it is dodgy, isn't it? Yeah. It is a bit dodgy. So, but also, why didn't anyone know this until recently? Because apparently the song was a band that they played with, and stuff like that too. Why now?
What happened with that court case?
They out of court settlement. They had to pay for it.
Paid off.
Is that song? There's a couple of songs actually. But the problem is, right, the Hallowed Be Thy Name, they wrote the music.
Yeah.
All the lyrics could be fucking anything. They could put anything in there and it'd still be an amazing song.
Yeah.
But it's not like that, you know, that made the song, whatever. He didn't make I Maiden famous, for God's sake. But they should have sorted that out early. You got to sort those things out early. Definitely. Bad move from management there. Anyway, so Dennis, all the blood and stuff on stage. And so Steve now wants to go full time. You know, he just wants to be dedicated.
I just really knew that, you know, I wanted to be focused and basically dedicated and just do everything possibly you can to make it happen.
Exactly. Why not, right? Yeah. Like, I'm like that. If I'm doing something, I don't want to do it 80%. I want to do 100%.
Yeah.
This podcast, like, I wanted to do it because I love talking about Iron Maiden, and I was, you know, I thought it'd be cool to talk to you about it. But you know,
right? You don't want to do 80%.
No, I want to do 100%.
I was forced into this.
Yes, exactly.
100% by Ash.
I was like, you've got to do this right now. You can't be. You got to watch all the documentaries, everything, whatever. Like I said, I totally get what he says.
To everyone listening, like Ash has been making me study. But it's been fun. So I mean, I'm enjoying it.
Like I said, if it was just me and another Iron Maiden fanatic, I don't think it'd be as interesting as I said, you who was, you know, you're basically getting into the band from the beginning now, and you know, I'm just telling you what I know about him, and we can enjoy him together. But Steve Harris clearly didn't have anything to fall back on, and just went, you know, for 100%. And but it is a lot to ask of a lot of people, man. If you got a job and you're 21, whatever, you got money, you're enjoying yourself, whatever, and someone says, "Oh, quit all that and join, you know, continue my band that might make it." It's not an easy decision, man.
You know it yourself. I've been in a band, you've been in a band. More than one person, you know, things get complicated.
Yep.
And that's what a band is. It's
Yeah, it is a complex web of people, but that's why it's better to do when you're younger, when you don't have the responsibility. When you're older, it's much, much difficult.
Yeah.
Anyway, then in comes Dave Murray, who we talked about earlier. Dave Murray, one of the best guitar player ever. Amazing, smiley little face guy. He's a funny little looking guy. He just
seems genuinely happy all the time.
Yeah. Right? He lives in Hawaii now, too. Yeah. So it's like the perfect place for him. Just sitting on the beach,
I can see
smiling.
That. Yeah. Was that the one also, was it Steve was saying, like, he'd only been playing guitar for 5 years, and how could someone be that good?
I don't know, man. Like, some people just get it. Like,
it's also when you're younger too. If maybe that's all you're doing.
Yeah, true. Yeah, Dave Murray is an amazing guitar, and like I said, he says a lot of the songs were stretching himself because, like, a lot of the I Maiden is not that easy to play, like, correctly. There's a lot of like tremolo picking and then like weird like chords and stuff like that.
Right.
So it is, he says it was a stretch for him to play some of the songs, but Iron Maiden's whole thing is that they are a technically not prog band, but they're on the border of that being complicated, but still quite accessible.
Yes.
But there's still a lot of, guitar players can go, oh, I love this riff, whatever.
Yeah.
And people like vocals can enjoy the melody. So it is a good balance. But yeah, Dave Murray joins the band is amazing. And, God, finding a guy that's cool and can play the guitar as well as that is very rare finds,
Yeah, like I was saying before, he just seems genuinely happy, kind of chilled guy.
Yeah, you see him playing, he just doesn't look like he's trying, and he's just smiling, whatever. Yeah. Anyway, so then, Dennis starts putting all these ads in the paper or whatever.
Yep.
Which I felt a bit embarrassed about sometimes, if the truth be known, Kingsley East End and all this business. There was one that I really remember, and it was Dennis that came up with a line of, we shake, shock and rock, we make the rest look average stock, which I thought was really corny, but all that stuff just really worked. I suppose people thought, really bloody all these cocky gits, and then they, come down, and I think they were probably pleasantly surprised.
Exactly. You need someone to, push it.
Some of that cheesy stuff works.
Yeah,
whereas I know me personally, like, maybe like I'm be that similar, like, oh, it's a bit cringe.
Yeah.
Hey, it works.
It does work. I mean, look at where we live in Japan. TV adverts. Yeah. They're all cringy little dance, melodic
tell
things.
Me about it.
Everything's a song. And not a song, a jingle. And it must work. Otherwise, everyone wouldn't be doing it.
I was in a Japanese ad once.
Oh, yeah?
I felt pretty cringe about it. But
what did you have to say?
It was for, it's one of the famous instant ramens.
Oh, no
but
way.
The thing is, luckily, I did everything just in English, and they overdubbed me with a famous old baseball player.
Got it. I wish you could have heard your voice. Yeah. If you can dig that up.
I'll find out,
I'll post it on the Instagram someday. Yeah, but it's true that you need to promote yourself, because as a band, like, it is music, and even, but you got to have something about yourself and be interesting, and people want to see you, because, like, it's the age when they were young at this time, kids have got to, when you recommend a film or a band to someone, and they don't actually, some people got to find it by themselves.
Yes,
and like you got to find it and think, oh, this is my thing. Mm-hmm. That's not your thing. This is my thing.
Yeah.
If you can get 1,000 people to do that, you're ready to go. But kids have got to connect with you. Like I said, the kids loved the band, and they were really connecting with them, and you either have it or you don't.
That's true. Yeah.
1976, mate. Harris is on
76.
bass. Bob Sawyer on guitar. Don't think that's his real name.
No.
Ron Matthews on drums, Dennis Wilcox on vocals, and Dave Murray on guitar. And then Denny Wilcox breaks it up.
He eventually managed to sack everybody, including me, Bob Sawyer, Dave Murray. We was all sacked.
we was all sacked. Yeah. Yeah. Apparently, like, he says, like, I don't know. He says Bob was too flash.
Yeah.
Okay. And he didn't like Dave Murray's girlfriend.
Yeah.
Okay. So once again, being the vocalist, though, you do have a bit of power, because finding a vocalist is quite hard. And like I said, for Steve as well, like, when Dennis came in, I think things must have changed because they must have got more popular because of all the theatrics or whatever.
Right.
So I can understand why he didn't want to let him go.
Instead of kind of part of their identity.
Instead of firing him and keeping the other guys, it's much, the other guys are not the ones who pushed us up a level. He's the one who did it, right? So I do understand that thinking. And so in a way, I would say that Steve is doing things in a logical way, I would say, or at least moving in the right direction. But, firing Dave Murray is insane.
That was the shocker one for me when I heard that.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, 1977, Steve's on bass, Tony Moore on keyboards.
Guitar on its own wouldn't have been enough, as they were mainly doing harmonies. So at that point, and the only time, as obviously history says, they brought in a keyboard player, Tony Moore.
Keyboardist.
Yeah. No, you've watched the documentary, right?
Yeah.
You know the famous line.
Yes. What was
I like to have a metal with a synthesizer.
That is my favorite.
You can't play heavy metal with synthesizers. Oh, really? Try telling that to the new album, Steve.
Right.
Now, as Maiden get on and on and on, around 1988 or something like that, Steve gets a synthesizer for Christmas or something and just can't stop playing it because now in a metal band, you know, especially Maiden, if a synth is for like, you know, background or whatever, it works.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But they do get a bit too much in the new music. It's a lot of keyboards and synths and stuff. But you know, anyway.
No, for me, it's the images be more like a layer or a pad kind of thing.
That's what it was in a lot of cases. But then now Steve's just like putting on everything, and sometimes it's like, oh, it's just way too much. And the tone as well. He's got this whatever he's using on the new album. Like turn the treble down on it a bit. It's very bad. Anyway, let's leave it there for today, and we'll continue the rest next week.
Sounds good. We'll have to get a soundbite of that one when he's talking to the guy with the synthesizer, because that is my favorite.
I'll get that one actually. Yeah. That's on the thing to go. So, like I said, we're just going to continue talking about the documentary until we get to the end of it. So. Then we'll move on to the first album and talk about that. I'm interested to hear what you think about it, because, like I said, you only knew Bruce, right? You didn't even know there was another singer.
Total new territory for me. So, been good. Second episode. This is all still pretty new for me. So quite exciting.
So if you have any thoughts, you can email us on listentoironmaidenbaby@gmail.com or follow us on Instagram at that. You know, just search for that.
Yeah.
Give us a comment, whatever you think. Like I said, this is not really even though me and Anta are talking about it, I like talking about Iron Maiden with anyone. So please email me what you think or your opinion or whatever we talk about. And let's talk about Iron Maiden.
Yep, sounds good. If you've been listening to all of it so far, you're a legend.
Thank you very much. All right, catch you next week. Bye.